Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm trying to create videos that give a little something back to the film community here on YouTube. So if you shoot film or if you like old cameras, I encourage you to subscribe or at the very least, hit the little thumbs up button because it will help other people who might find this video interesting find this video. And if you make it to the end of the video, don't be shy, drop a comment below if you have any further questions about anything that I talk about here today. I wanted to try something a little bit different today, so I'm going to dig into my archives and pull up a roll of Kentmere 400 that I shot. It was the first time I shot it in medium format, and it was the first time that I shot this camera, the Fuji GW690. So there's quite a few things we can talk about today, but don't consider this like a thorough review of this camera. If that's something that would interest you, let me know in the comments below. And it's also not a scientific review of Kentmere 400 because I didn't shoot test charts or bracket my exposures or anything. So for today's video, just consider this more of like a real world use case scenario. So I think one thing to keep in mind if you are shopping these cameras is that there's a ton of different versions out there. This is the GW690, but there's also a 6x7, a 6x8. There's versions 1, 2, and 3 of those cameras. And then there's the GSW, which is the super wide version that has a 65mm lens instead of the 90mm lens that's on these. But that's a 5.6 and this is a 3.5. So if your goal is to get that medium format look with a really shallow depth of field, this is going to land you a little bit closer in that space. And especially with the size of the negative of the 6x9. And when you are looking at cameras that have a bigger negative, there's not that many cameras in that category. There's this, and I guess in the same price range, people often will put like the Pentax 6.7 or the Mamiya RB6.7 or the RZs, depending if you can find one at a good price or not. But while you're gaining the ability to change lenses on those cameras, you're also losing those 2 extra centimeters on the negative. So it kind of just depends on what's important to you. And for me, going with the biggest negative I could get was the ultimate goal. Because I didn't know anyone that had the camera and I'd never seen it in person, all of my research around this camera was based on what I could find out from other reviews or from what I could figure out from pictures online. And as far as I could tell at the time, this was the only model that had a removable lens hood, which is very important to me because I had a bunch of filters that I wanted to use that required step-up rings. And on the versions where you can't remove the lens hood would get in the way of a step-up ring, which would then block access to your aperture and your shutter speed. And I didn't want to have that issue where accessories would change the usability of the camera. So for that reason, I went with the original. If that doesn't bother you, by all means, go for the slightly newer models. I'm sure they're going to be in a little bit better condition and are pretty much almost all priced in the same price range. And at the time of recording this video, even with the prices on the used market, there's still really nothing else that compares to this camera. I was just cutting this together and I remembered that there are 3 other versions of this camera that I always forget exists. There's the G series, the GL series, and the GM series. And they were less interesting to me because I liked the idea of the 90mm, which was only available as a fixed lens on the GW690. And because it has like a equivalent of like a 40mm on a full frame sensor, which if you can picture that, it's like a little bit more versatile. You can shoot landscapes and portraits. And I did get a really nice portrait that I'm about to show you guys on this first roll that I shot. And nowhere else in this video did I think to mention it, but the roll that I'm about to show you guys is one of the first rolls that I shot on a 365-day film challenge, which was basically just me deciding to shoot minimum 1 photo a day on film for a full year, just because. And in so doing, I learned a lot about my own photography. I learned a lot about what I like, what I don't like, and I do think that I came out of it a better photographer. So I do plan to do a whole separate video just talking about that because I thought that was super interesting. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that real quick. I'm going to stop rambling and I will get back to this video so that I can show you guys some pictures. Anyways, I have so much more that I could say about this camera, but like I said earlier, if you want to see a full review on it, let me know in the comments and I'll try to get that done sooner rather than later. But for now, let's take a look at that roll of Kentmere. So just like every other time, I'll show you guys every shot on the roll. I think I already mentioned that, but just in case I didn't. This is an abandoned drive-in in Laval. There's a bunch of these screens that were up for years and years and years, and recently they've been getting knocked down in favor of this condo development, which unfortunately is super sad because once again, it's a little piece of our history that's just getting paved over. It's sad to see things like this go. And I was super glad that I was able to to get there one last time and take some photos of it on film, because there's something kind of cool about shooting an old drive-in on film. As a first shot on this roll, I'm super happy with how it turned out. I think the composition's pretty good, considering for me, it was the first time shooting a rangefinder too. So I didn't know how accurate or inaccurate the viewfinder was going to be, but it turned out not too bad. I guess maybe this branch on the right is the only thing that kind of bothers me. And if I was to shoot it again, I would maybe give it a little bit more room at the bottom just to have slightly more symmetrical horizon, like a middle point. But arguably, I guess you could always crop some of the sides. Although I do always hesitate to crop a film photo unless it really, really needs it. This second shot on the roll is probably one of my favorite ones. I remember this shot, and I just like how you're seeing like the backside of the screen. There's like this weird, I don't know how to describe it. Just like for me, it gives this slightly ominous feeling. It's like a weird negative space. You're seeing like the overgrown bush behind the screen, and everything's kind of cool. You can see how much it's leaning too, because everything else in the image is pretty straight, but like you can see how the screens kind of lean as if they're falling. It's I don't know, definitely like that shot. Even like the little tree popping out on the right, like it's not my favorite. I think like in an ideal world, maybe the shot would be nicer if it wasn't there, but I'm not gonna Photoshop that out or anything. I'm just gonna leave it as is, I think. You know, being the first roll that I put through this camera, this was kind of a test photo here. I remember this little spot up here in the sky. That's not like a piece of dirt or anything on the negative. That was actually a plane that was flying through. And I think I shot this at f3.5 or maybe 5.6. So it makes sense that that would be out of focus, knowing that I focused on the foreground elements. So I guess it is what it is. This shot I kind of like. This is inside of the Santa Stash Flea Market, which is another drive-in movie theater also at night. During the day, it's a flea market, and at night, it's a drive-in movie theater, which you can see a photo of here on the wall, the Center Park, the entrance sign in 1971. The other thing that I remember about this photo was that I shot it at a really slow shutter speed. I think I was at 1/30th. What's it go to on here? Yeah, I was at 1/30th of a second, holding my breath, tucked my elbows in really tight, had the camera pressed up to my face, and was just hoping that it would turn out and be in focus. And there's like a slight motion blur to it, but when you're zoomed out, it's not really perceivable, and it's totally acceptable. So, fun little fact. This shot didn't really work. This was the exit at the flea market, and it had this cool bar sign that was showing through a mirror with the payphone in the foreground. And I guess this would be the first time that I noticed that framing on a rangefinder is considerably different, because through the viewfinder, I remember I could totally clearly read the bar sign, and in the actual photo it got cut off. So it's kind of unfortunate that didn't work out too well, because now I think that payphone is gone. So even trying to recreate this photo is impossible. Here's an outside shot of the same flea market. These stripes, I think, are red or orange on white. And I don't know if it's my photo that's a little bit crooked or if the building is leaning. I guess it's my photo. But that's not too bad. I kind of like the composition on this one. The leading lines you got like a crisscross thing, and it definitely makes your eyes go to the exit sign and the restaurant sign. This was an abandoned 18-wheeler truck. Well, no, I guess the truck is not there. This was an abandoned trailer that an 18-wheeler left in a parking lot. I say abandoned because it was backed into this field over here, and the back doors were totally open. Obviously, I liked something about this frame that made me want to take a photo of it. It's quite minimal. It's up my alley, I guess. Maybe it's a little bit of shame that tree on the left is cut off a bit weird, but we'll move on. And I think this is the last frame on my roll. This is a great shot where you can really start to see some of that shallow depth of field from the medium format negative. I remember thinking that it would be kind of fun to end every roll on this camera with a portrait of somebody, so that's what I did here. And if I remember correctly, I did shoot this at, yeah, I shot this still metered at 200. I shot it at 1/500th of a second and f4. So not even fully wide open, and you can still see how shallow the depth of field came out on this shot and how nice the fall off is with everything and the subject separation with the background. I really like this photo. I love environmental portraits like this where you kind of see a little bit of everything around the person too. It gives a little bit more context to who they are, and you can tell a little bit more of a story rather than just a nice portrait of somebody. And one last thing I want to point out is just how sharp this lens is. I find that the combination of this lens with medium format gives a look that feels not digital, but it has like the clarity of a digital photo. So that was the first roll that I put through this camera. Out of the 8 shots that I got, I'd say that there's 2 that I really like, the portrait at the end and the second shot of the drive-in. Otherwise, there's one shot that totally missed due to bad framing, but I think there's something cool about showing you guys every single shot on the roll. I hope that you're learning a little bit something about composition or about someone's intent when it comes to why they took a photo or what they liked about a photo to begin with. And like I said, don't be shy to let me know if you have any questions about the camera or if you want to discuss anything else I talked about here today. I'll do my best to write back to every single one of you. And if all goes well, I'll see you again in a week or so.